The following is a paid issue advertisement.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won. It's not about what party. It's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
Paid for by RealAmerica.vote, a DBA of New York Citizens Audit Civic Fund, Incorporated.
Go to RealAmerica.vote. The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
According to the Department of Justice, Eileen Wong and her former fiancé ran a fake website from 2020 to 2022. They published articles at the direction of the Chinese government. Here's an example from Wong's plea agreement in which she instructed to share a story denying the existence of genocide and forced labor camps inside China. A 2023 report looked into the scope of Chinese espionage in the United States. It found more than 200 incidents since 2000, with a significant spike in recent years. Last month, the FBI also gave insight into China's nefarious tactics.
They do these very overt things to scare the rest of the community, and they recruit people to report, within the community. So they're creating this Orwellian climate of fear where everyone is afraid to speak out.
So there are Chinese spies among us. Eileen Wong, admittedly one of them.
Eileen Wong was the mayor of Arcadia, California, a Chinese spy. Almost every single news report of this, and there are many, almost every single one of the published news reports that I have read fail to mention one thing. What political party is she affiliated with? The admitted Chinese spy. Would you like to take a guess? You wouldn't. Okay, would you like to take a guess? You don't think it would be a guess? Yes, she's a Democrat. Now, in all fairness, she was a Republican before she switched over to the Democrats. Maybe her bosses said, well, join the Republicans, and they realized that, no, I don't know what happened. She's a Democrat. The Chinese spy, and if it were a Republican spy, it would have been in the headlines of everyone. Republican Chinese spy takes a deal. Instead, nothing. It's pretty amazing, my friends. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, fastest hour in American media. I've got tons of, we always do, interesting audio clips to play for you, including what will be our clip of the day. But I don't want to start with the clips. I read a story yesterday, said if we had time we'd get to it, couldn't get to it. I am determined that we will do this story today, so we'll do it right now. It was a story from Fox, and it caught my attention because this is a theme that first came to my attention many years ago when Rush Limbaugh actually spent probably an hour discussing it in all of its implications and ramifications. And in fact, it was so profound that he devoted considerable space on his website to point to the actual data of the story that he did then and the research that he had done. It was the wealthy and what percentage of taxes they actually pay. The headline from Fox is this: 6 different ways that prove the wealthy pay a lot more than their fair share. Politicians demand more from the wealthy, but never define what enough looks like in real dollars or percentages is the subhead. If you listen to politicians like Vermont independent senator, he's a Democrat, communist socialist, Bernie Sanders, and New York Democrat Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, there is a constant drumbeat when they're not endorsing billionaires like they are in California. I inserted that in. The rich don't pay their fair share. We don't need oligarchs. These are powerful sound bites. They are also among the most intellectually lazy phrases in modern economics. Because here's the real question no one answers. What exactly is fair? Let's start with the facts, which many people don't like to discuss, and not feelings. Let's leave the emotions out of this, and says Fox, and let's deal with the facts. Nothing with the facts, man. That's the facts. According to data from the Internal Revenue Service and the Tax Foundation, the top 1%, the wealthiest among us, the top 1%, pay roughly 40% of all federal income taxes. 1% of the people pay 40% of all the federal income taxes. When you look at the top 10% of owners, of Americans, the top 10% of earners, it is close to 70%. 70% of all federal taxes, almost 70% of it is paid by 10% of the people in this country, the top 10%. If you're in the top 10% tax bracket, you are among the group of people that are paying almost 70% of all taxes that flow in to the federal government. Meanwhile, nearly half of Americans pay no taxes at all. Half the country's not paying any taxes. Little to none. Half the country pays almost nothing. Meanwhile, the top 10% are paying 70% of all of the federal taxes. So, this is what Fox says about it. When someone says the wealthy don't pay enough, what they're really saying is it's fair that lots of people pay zero, and they want the rich to pay even more than their fair share. They want the rich to pay even more than that share. They want more from the people that are already paying the most, while lots of people, almost half this country, pays nothing in taxes. So then the article goes on to say, let's talk about what rich actually pay in taxes. They pay the federal income tax. So, how much is the quote-unquote marginal rate? What's their rate? If you are in the rich, you're paying 37% of your income. 37% of your income is going into taxes. Divide it up by $1. 100 ones. If you're in the rich, before you get to the other taxes, just because you're rich, they're going to say, okay, give me 37 of that $100. And just keep doing the math. 37% of that. You got $100, the government's going to take $37 off the top, just because you're rich. Then you pay state income taxes. So, if you are rich and you're in states like California and New York, you can put another 10 to 14% on top of that. So let's, for the sake, make it easy, call it another 10%. You're rich. By the time you just pay your federal and state taxes, you're up to 47. From either 47 to 51% of your income. Half of your income. Half. Look, if you get a divorce from your spouse tells you what? I want half. I want half. We've only been married 6 months. I can't stand you. But you're going to give me half. And you're going to give me half in perpetuity until you find some way to get out of it. I want half. That is what the government is telling the wealthy. Just state and federal government. Now, let's say you own property. If you own property, congratulations. You write a check every year to keep it. If you're in states like New Jersey, Tejas, New York, you can easily pay another 10 G's to 30 G's just for a higher value home. And guess what? You keep paying that year after year after year after year. By the time you get through paying, let's say you're in a home 20 years and you're paying 30 G's. What is that? You're paying almost 600 G's in just property taxes if you hit that bracket. And some places in New York, 30 G's, they wish they could pay 30 G's. They were paying that 20 years ago. Then you get hit with sales tax. You go out and buy something, then you're going to get sales tax. There are places now, Tennessee, Washington, for instance, where sales tax is 10%. So then on the money that you've already kept, you're going to pay another 10% of that money when you buy stuff. Now, if you're rich and you're already paying half, then you go out and buy stuff and stimulate the economy, and that pushes you up, if you're paying tax on that, to 60% of those dollars. Well over half of those dollars that you've earned are paid out in taxes. Then, capital gains tax. Capital gains tax, the states are coming after you with that. And then you add on to that estate taxes. So you live all your life, you save your money, before you can even hand it off to the next generations, here come these greedy politicians again with their hands in your pockets, and they take on, after you're dead, they're still taking from you. And yeah, but we're not even talking about the other specialized surtaxes along the way. The gas tax, like what they're doing in Virginia, where they want to add 50 new taxes to people, including a tax to go to the gym, a tax to get an Uber Uber driver, a tax if you get something delivered to your house from Amazon. They want to put a tax on that.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So with all that tax money that's collected, what happens to it? Well, I know what we should do. Let's take a visit, shall we? Let's go out to Minnesota, and then let's stop in Columbus, Ohio. First, Minnesota.
Charges announced tonight after more than $1 million in SNAP benefits were stolen in Minnesota. And according to those charges, 60-year-old Abdeed Wahid Muhammad used other people's EBT cards to buy products from Walmart, Sam's Club, and Costco, and then sold those items at his own grocery store called Minnesota Food Grocery. From March to August of 2021, he purchased $1.1 million. This is in products through various EBT cards. And an investigation found he promised payment and even free groceries from his store for people who gave him those cards.
5 months.
Now to
over
a
$1 million.
fraud scheme that could potentially cost taxpayers in Ohio hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet a recent audit revealing major red flags in that state's Medicaid program. Mike Tobin following all of it. Mike joins us now from our Midwest Bureau. Mike, what you find out? Hello.
The overall, Bill, Ohio gets billions of dollars from the Fed for its Medicaid program. The state's auditor has found some very suspicious ways the home health care money is being distributed. During a recent state audit, investigators found 40% of the money spent went to just one county. That's Franklin County, where Columbus is. And almost 40% of that money went to just 2 zip codes. The addresses are all within 4 miles of each other. The state auditor says overall they found what they call an error rate of almost 16%. Now, error rate is just a bureaucratic way to say money sent to people for whom it was not intended.
Now, some of them were dead people that were still on the rolls. Some of them were other type of errors. But is 15.6% something that's significant? Well, in a program as large as Medicaid, you bet your boots it is.
In fact, the Ohio auditor says that could potentially equal anywhere from $800 million to $4 billion overall.
$4 billion all it could go up to. That's where your tax money's going, folks. The fraudsters.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The audio bites, folks, this fraud is everywhere. You're talking almost $4 billion, maybe just in Ohio. A lot of it centering in money that's flowing through Columbus, Ohio. And then, of course, more fraud. Every day there's more fraud being uncovered in Minnesota. It's astounding. I want to go very quickly to Javier Becerra. You know, I've been pronouncing this guy's name wrong. I see an X at the beginning of a name, and for years I've never known how to pronounce it. Or even when I do know when it's Javier, I keep calling him Xavier. Because that's Xavier. Xavier. But it's Javier. Javier. I like Xavier. Anyway, what a cool name. Xavier. Anyway, he was on an interview with KTLA. And I just want you to hear the way the interview began. Cut 10. This is how they said. The interviewer sitting across from him, before it even gets going, this is... Do we have it? Do we have it? Cut 10. Xavier Becerra. Javier. Here we go.
This is the start of our interview with Javier Becerra in Highland Park.
By the way, this is a profile piece. This is not a gotcha piece, right?
Well, look, I think these questions are fair. It's in order to learn about you as a candidate.
So long as it's about the profile.
I don't know how you define profile, but I'd like to begin the interview.
The way I describe profile is you talk about all the things that I've done, things I want to do, and along with some tough questions. But not only tough questions.
Before the interview starts, he's like, this is a profile piece, right? This isn't gotcha. You're not going to gotcha me. It's just amazing. So, as the interview proceeded, let's look to this cut 11 from Javier Becerra.
During the time as HHS secretary, a New York Times investigation found the health department couldn't find some 85,000 children it had released.
That's not accurate. What you just read is not accurate. First, that's what I'll say, because it was never the case that we could not find kids. You're essentially, I don't know if you got those talking points from Donald Trump.
It's from a New York Times article.
That's not what the New York Times article said. The New York Times said that individuals, the children and their sponsors, did not respond to calls. They didn't say we couldn't find kids.
Working overnight in slaughterhouses, replacing roofs, operating machineries in factories, children as young as 14 years old.
That part occurred after these children had left the care of the Department of Health and Human Services.
Do you let these children go into those individual sponsors in their responsibility?
Some of these kids, probably because they needed to earn some money, started working in places that were very exploitive.
He's justifying child labor. These are all kids that they let in under the Biden administration. He was Health and Human Services Director, and they lost these kids. And I don't know whose talking points these are. You got Donald Trump talking. No, sir, it's from the New York Times. Oh, it's wrong. It's not wrong. This is amazing. He didn't like the gotcha questions. Meanwhile, I don't know whether you've heard about this. Remember those cuts we played from Spencer Pratt the other day with the L.A. debate, the L.A. mayor's debate? Yeah, well, guess what? They were supposed to have another debate tomorrow. Guess what happened? Wednesday's debate among candidates for mayor of Los Angeles was canceled after the front runners decided against speaking. The announcement from the League of Women Voters was set to host the forum came that news that Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass opted out of the debate. And then also, what's her name? Dropped out of the debate, the other Democrat there. So, no debate. Pratt whipped they're women, you're not supposed to say that, but he bested them. I'll put it like that. He bested them embarrassingly. All right, we have more on the the elections and black people and the elections and black people. Let's dip into the well. This is getting tiring. Every day, it's like we got to go down this racial rabbit hole every single day. But let's start with the Democrats. Let's see where we start. Okay, let's start with cut 2. Troy Carter, Democrat representative from somewhere. He just quick. That's all we can.
We got to stand together, and we got to fight together, and we've got to demonstrate that we're not going back.
Get angry. Come on.
We're not going back.
There you go.
There will be no second coming of Jim Crow.
That's right.
There will be no second coming of Reconstruction. There will be no second coming of taking away the rights that we fought for, that we died for. But that only happens when we are informed, prepared, mobilized, and we vote.
There will be no second coming of Jim Crow. There will be no second coming of Reconstruction. You know why? Because there will be no second coming of Democrats that gave us Jim Crow and that gave us Reconstruction. There will be no second coming of Jim Crow. Jim Crow 2.0 will not happen. Let's go to CNN. The Abby panel, cut 3. It's Abby. What do you just
I think Ashley yourselves? And I have to wrestle with the fact that we are going to be the first generation to actually leave this country worse than the one that we inherited. And I think for black millennials, the progress that our parents and grandparents gave us, that we're watching being ripped away from us, is something that our generation is going to have to really wrestle with. There's a price that was paid for this right. Mm-hmm. There is a price that we uphold. And whether or not you value that, whether or not you value that or not, there are people who bled, sweat, and died and were imprisoned for access to the ballot box. And what we're seeing throughout the South is that their voice, their vote, their representation, and people who have lived experiences to represent them are not being sent to Congress or where they need to go.
Well, this debate, by the way, is happening among the justices. If you look at the Louisiana decision, the conservatives are saying we've made great progress. It's time to let go of using racial discrimination.
And that's why I utilize the description of
and the liberal justices say exactly what you just said, Bakari, which is there's a history here that we're overlooking.
But Ellie, I mean, the 3 years.
All right, let's stop right here because I got another one to play and it's taking too long. This is the next one. This is when he gets into it with Kevin O'Leary. CNN cut 4. This is Baraki Sellers going at it with Kevin O'Leary over the same stuff.
I think everybody should take confidence in the fact the Supreme Court basically supported one vote, one person, guaranteed in perpetuity. And the rest is just map wars. And I think we should get used to it. And I think it's, as you said, a state-based situation. Add this to the mix. At the end of the day, the state decides at the state level. It's in the Constitution. Get over it.
So the problem with that sentiment is that you were born in 1954.
Yeah.
Okay. You're 71.
Yeah.
Right. In 1954.
By the way, I'm a vampire.
During your lifetime, we've actually had Brown v. Board of Education.
I remember.
Yeah, Brown v. Board of Education. I don't know how you remember it. I think you were like 2 months old. But I'm not finished yet. Let me finish my thought.
Drill back to.
I'm not finished. Yeah, but you're still alive, right? And so there's an entire generation of people. Brown v. Board, it overturned Plessy v. Ferguson of 1896. My point is that my mother was born in 1951. She desegregated schools. My father was shot in the civil rights movement. Those people. I'm going to finish because you're being utterly disrespectful.
Not at all.
So I'm going to finish this comment. So what I'm telling you is that there are people in this country who fought, died, and bled for the right to vote. Don't be a dick. Just understand.
Okay.
Just understand.
Bakari, please stop calling the man a dick.
Is being upheld. Do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with the Constitution of the United States of America?
Hold on a second.
Because
I'm
I
going to
just want
stop
everybody
you.
to reset.
Bakari, we're not supposed to use the word dick on this show.
I want you to understand that there is a
Don't
price.
call the man a dick.
There's a price that was paid for this right. There is a price that we uphold. And
Hold tight. Stop. I have a lot of sympathy for what Bakari's saying. Number one. Okay, I get that. And I don't want you to think I'm making fun of Bakari Sellers on this point. Because like Bakari Sellers, anybody born in this era and that had parents that grew up in the Democrat Party South knows what it means when you say people died and people bled and people were treated horribly so that black people could vote. And I get that. And I also get his passion over it. What I don't understand is his perspective now over it. And that's what I take issue with. But I understand I understand why he's so heated. But I also get what Kevin's point is, which is where most people are with this stuff. Look, the 1960s are over already. Stop it. We're not in the 1960s already. Stop it. What, Debbie? I'm repeating what Debbie Duhane just texted me, ladies and gentlemen. She's James, your language. It wasn't my language. I'm not the guy that called the guy a dick. It was the black guy that did it at CNN, not the black guy here. They called the guy a dick. He said, stop being a dick to the white guy. And I thought that was a little over the top. He told the guy to stop being a dick. On the Abby Show. We got to take a break, by the way, because if we don't, we won't get to the clip of the day. So, I mean, it wasn't me, Debbie. It wasn't me that said it.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our clip of the day. For the second day in a row, we shall reach out to social media and experience our clip of the day from a young woman of African American descent. This woman, ladies and gentlemen, is our clip of the day.
Surprise, surprise. The left is pulling the race card script. Again, black representation, racism, white supremacy. It's the same playbook every time, and they only pull it out when their power is on the line. This past week really proved my point. Last week, Tennessee redrew the 9th Congressional District in Memphis, currently held by Steve Cohen, a 76-year-old white Democrat. Been there since 2007. Democrats lost their minds. Jim Crow, white supremacy. The NAACP files an emergency lawsuit. And then the truth comes out. The Republican most likely to win that seat is Charlotte Bergman, a black Republican woman from Memphis. Single mom who overcame homelessness, built her own business, lost her grandson to gang violence. She has run against Steve Cohen 6 times. 6. Democrats spent 20 years keeping a white man in that majority black district. And CNN's response, it actually is racist. A black woman replacing a white man in Congress is racist. And this is not new. 6 months ago, Virginia governor race, Winsome Earl Sears, Marine veteran, would have been Virginia's first black female governor, running as a Republican against Abigail Spanberger, a white woman. Who shows up to campaign against the black woman? Barack Obama. Cuts 2 ads for Spanberger, flies to Norfolk, and headlines a rally in front of 7,000 people in a black community. The same Barack Obama who 1 year earlier lectured black men in Pittsburgh and told them that they had a moral duty to vote for Kamala Harris because she was a black woman. 1 year later, he's begging black voters to reject the black woman because she's a Republican. Let me say this plainly. They don't care about black representation. They never did. They just needed us to vote Democrat. That was LBJ's whole plan. He bragged he'd have us locked in for 200 years. That's why Charlotte Bergman doesn't count. That's why Winsome Earl Sears doesn't count. That's why I don't count, because we are proof that black Americans can think, vote, and lead however we choose. Proof that the whole thing falls apart the second we walk away, and they need you to ignore us. So hear me clearly. They don't care about black representation. They don't care about black people. They care about our vote. They care about our allegiance. They care about power. That is it. That is all it has ever been. So stop letting them use you.
Just tell me that boom.
Thanks for listening to The James Golden Show. You can hear The James Golden Show Saturday mornings at 7. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.